What is going on, everyone? So, this is going to be the first of any educational series that we're going to do in this format. So, it's either going to be me or Dasha talking on a slideshow or just a formal educational kind of like a lecture, right? So, I haven't come up with a name for this series, but y'all are going to be educated. Today's topic is how to train hard. These are the six key principles you need to know in order to train hard. All right, so the first one is load. Now, very simply, this is just the amount of weight that you're going to be using for any given exercise on your program. Right, so first and foremost, you always want to use weights that you can execute really well while pushing hard. Um, that means that you don't want to go too light and you don't want to go too heavy. When it's too light, there's no stimulus, there's no effect of the weight actually doing anything. And when we go too heavy, our form is more likely to break down. And with breakdown of form or technique, there is a higher chance of injury. And when your form also is not good, you're not going to be able to execute the movement in a way that's going to stimulate muscle growth. Okay, and the same thing goes for any power movements, whether you're powerlifting or weightlifting or doing any kind of strongman. Your technique and execution is going to determine how much, I guess, how strong you can display your strength, right? So, technique and execution will display your strength and also put you in a position to build more muscle, right? So, there's no point in no time where your form should be sacrificed for weight. Your last reps should be tough, but also maintain good form, meaning the only variable to change between the first and last rep should be the speed of the rep. If the speed of the rep is slowing down, your form should still be really, really good. Okay. Again, too light, no progress, too heavy, injury risk. And for the majority of exercises, I can probably count on one hand how many exercises that you would not stay within the 6 to 15 rep range. And now this is particularly and specifically talking about building muscle. When we're working for strength, aka powerlifting, you can work within like the 1 to 5 rep range. And that's not to say you can't build muscle with like 4 or 5, even sometimes 3 reps, but it shouldn't be done intentionally. The only time that's acceptable is if you're trying a new weight and you got a little bit overzealous and you overshot it, right? But regardless, your form should still always be good. Okay, so that's pertaining load. Next, effort. Effort can also be understood as intensity, right? How hard you are actually training. Now, when it comes to powerlifting, intensity also actually refers to load in terms of percentage of weight lifted in comparison to your 1 rep max. We're not talking about that here. We're talking about effort, right? So we do want to train really, really close to failure. So very high amounts of effort need to be put into each and every set. We want to maximize our time in the gym. And I'll talk about this a little bit later in the slideshow, but we don't want to do extra sets for no reason when you could have put more effort into the 1, 2, or 3 sets that you actually have there, right? So the idea here is to put everything you can into 1 or 2, sometimes 3 sets, rather than just doing more sets at like lower effort or lower intensities, right? And this also kind of pertains to, when people get a little bit excited and try going for 1 rep maxes, those are not going to do anything for you. They're not going to build anything. The analogy I like to use for this is when you have an exam coming up, you need to study for it. You cannot just go do the exam, fail it, and then just without studying, go do it again and again and again and again and again. And you keep failing it because you didn't actually study. If you did that in school, you'd be looked at as retard. So please don't do that in the gym because it's just as retarded. Okay? You are aiming for 80 to 90% effort to grow and to get stronger, meaning you should always leave a little bit of room for you to push for the next session. And it's also a smart idea to kind of stop at like 80-90%, just so you don't unintentionally push yourself kind of over that, and then you lose your technique and your form breaks down and then you get injured, right? So really what I'm trying to say here is train with close proximity to failure. Okay, and I'll kind of add on to this in a bit, right? Volume. Now, a lot of people don't really understand what volume is. Volume is defined as your sets times your reps times your load. So, for example, if you're doing a bench press with 100 pounds and you're doing 3 sets of 10, that's 30 reps at 100 pounds, which is equal to 3,000 pounds of total volume for your bench press. That's just an example of how volume works, right? Now, how much volume should somebody do? I don't know. You probably don't know. And so we start at something called the minimum effective volume, and then we raise it up little bit by little bit until we get to something called maximum recoverable volume. If you go past this amount of volume, there's a very, very high chance that you will not be able to recover from it. So you'll probably end up being sore. Your nervous system is going to start to not keep up. You're going to start to feel fatigued. You're going to start to feel, hey, I'm not getting any pumps anymore. Your strength also might actually start coming down. So we have to be very mindful of how much volume we're actually able to recover from versus what is the bare minimum amount of volume that actually make any progress on. Now, my recommendation is that you should never be at the minimum and you should never be at the maximum. We always want to be sort of kind of climbing up and then come back down, climbing up, come back down, right? That's a very smart way to do it. Or you can just pick a point in which, hey, I get really good gains from this amount of volume and I feel recovered, but it's not so little that like I don't feel like I'm doing any work at all. So find the Goldilocks zone, find the sweet spot, right? So we taper up to find your sweet spot, not fucking start high and then come back down. Like you'll never be able to figure that out because you're never going to be recovered. And finally, avoid junk volume, right? So this is essentially where you're just kind of like doing reps just to do more work in the gym, just to tire yourself out. That's pointless. We're in the gym not to tire ourselves out, not to feel like we did anything, but we're there to like do effective volume. Meaning if you have 2 sets on a specific exercise, put as much effort you can into the 2 sets or 3 sets, whatever is prescribed to you on the piece of paper or your program, whatever it is, right? So I'm not going to take the 2 sets and then do a third and fourth one. If I can do a third and fourth one, that means I put fucking no effort into the first and second one, right? So junk volume is essentially just unnecessary sets and reps that you feel like you want to do just because you want to tire yourself out and feel like you did something. We're not going based off of feelings and emotions. We're going based off of tangible, measurable variables and results. Okay? Now, frequency. This is pretty simple. It's just how frequent you train a movement or a muscle group. 2 to 3 times per week is perfect. If you are lagging on a certain body part or it's falling behind others, I would say it's a smart idea to try to prioritize the lagging body part by hitting it more frequently and with a slight bit more volume. If you just by default add more frequency, you should by default add more volume. Okay, so this does spread volume out, improves your skill and recovery. How does it improve skill? You're practicing the thing that you want to get better at more often. Okay, very simple. More frequent, consistent stimulus equals better gains. Now, you usually are recovered between 48 and 72 hours within any muscle group that you train, given that your volume is at the right amount. If you cannot recover within 72 hours of training something and you're still sore, your volume might be a little bit too high. You want to be able to recover from it. Now, Being sore isn't always an indication of how well you trained or are recovering, but it's a pretty good indication of recovery, right? So if you're feeling super, super sore after like 3, 4 days, you're under recovering. It might not be the fact that you're overtraining or having too much volume. You might just be under recovering. So you really have to audit the entirety of everything you're doing, including your nutrition, your sleep, and your training to see what's missing. Okay, consistency. This is very straightforward. You have to be consistent in the gym in order to see progress. You're not going to see any progress if you're picking and choosing when you want to show up. Showing up is mandatory, right? It is what is needed in order to make progress in the gym, right? Progress is not built over time, not overnight. Okay. And people always ask, well, how do you stay disciplined and how do you stay motivated? Well, discipline is built from doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And it just becomes ingrained in you. How do you keep doing things over and over and over again if you don't have motivation? You don't. Motivation is bullshit. Motivation does not exist. Motivation lasts for a very, very small period of time. It's equivalent to saying, hey, like, I want to be happy. Okay, well, you're not going to be happy all the time for the rest of your life. The same way, motivation is like happiness. You'll have moments where you're happy and moments where you're motivated. But discipline is what you really need to focus and build. Having short-term short-term girls, shorties, don't have short-term girls, guys. And girls don't have short-term guys either. Long-term guys and girls are good. But you should have short-term goals. This is so that there's always something that you're looking forward to doing, whether it's a competition, whether it's a photo shoot, whether it's some sort of event or a race, or simply put, even if your short-term goals are performance-based, meaning I want to be able to hit this weight for this many reps on this exercise. Goals, have them, work towards them. Otherwise, you're going to slack and put things off for tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to become next week, and next week's going to become next month, and next month's going to become next year. And all of a sudden, you're 70-year-old and you have not achieved anything. You're going to be regretting all the decisions that you did not make. So, consistency is not about motivation. It's about discipline. Discipline comes from you having a goal and working towards that goal every single day. Now, coming back to this, right? RPE, RR. So these two words are interchangeable. Rate of perceived exertion, RPE, or reps in reserve, RIR. They're both scales from 1 to 10. RPE is how hard a set feels on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, if I put a gun to your head and I told you I'm going to kill your entire family if you don't do another rep, and you are at 10, you would not possibly be able to do another rep. RIR is how many reps you could still do before failure. So it's essentially the same thing. RIR would be like, hey, if I can do one more or two more, RPE would be 8 or 9, right? Obviously, right? So we want to train at like 8 or 9 or 1 to 2 RIR for almost all exercises. Granted, there will be some exercises for things like powerlifting or any type of like specific performance type stuff that your coach sometimes will program at a lower RPE, especially things that are, I guess, higher risk, things like squats, deadlifts, more compound barbell movements. Sometimes people have RPE 6s and 7s programmed into their deadlifts, squats, and benches, and that's perfectly fine. Right? Again, most of us here are not powerlifting, so this will not apply to us. We are training to build muscle, and we're training to get stronger. We can work at the RP 8 to 9 the majority of time. And if you reach a 10, that's fine. Just keep your form good. Okay. Now, to sum this all up, training hard is smart programming plus disciplined effort over time. And I say this all the time to everyone. So if you haven't heard this yet, this is new for you. And if you've heard it, I'm going to say it again. Working harder isn't always smart, but working smart is always hard work. Okay? So I'll leave you guys with that. Hopefully you took a couple things from this educational video, right? / slideshow. Other than that, I'll see you guys on the next one.